Today, I'm going to try to explain to you what you need to do if immigration authorities come to your house, come to your workplace, or stop you in public. What are your rights? What can you do? You have constitutional rights in the United States, even if you are an undocumented alien. And if you are documented, you have to know how to deal with the immigration authorities. So today, I'm going to try to explain who is considered documented or in legal status, how you can respond to an immigration authority or an ICE raid. My name is Remzi Kulen. I'm an immigration attorney for over 20 years, and I helped thousands of individuals and companies with their immigration matters. And I think it is important for you to know your rights in a time like this. First of all, who's an undocumented non-citizen? The term is now changed to illegal alien by the Trump administration, but these people seem to be the vulnerable people who may be subject to deportation very easily. The first group consists of undocumented non-citizens who entered the country illegally. This is called entry without inspection. We're talking about somebody who's just walking across the border, who's getting into a tunnel and getting into the United States in a tunnel. What we are not talking about is people who are processed at the port of entry. These include asylum seekers, CBP-1 holders, anybody who entered with the inspection of U.S. authorities to the United States. These people have pending applications. They may be in deportation proceedings, but they are not considered undocumented aliens because they have entered the U.S. through a port of entry after the inspection of an immigration officer. So the first group consists of people who entered without inspection. The second group consists of people who entered the country legally with a visa, but overstayed their visa and didn't file for any application. Let's say you entered the US on a tourist visa and you overstayed. Let's say you entered the country on a visa waiver program and you overstayed. Or you were here on an H-1B visa, your I-94 expired, you didn't do anything, and you're here out of status, or maybe you already accrued unlawful presence. These people are also considered undocumented aliens. The third group would be vulnerable populations. We're talking about DACA holders. We're talking about TPS, temporary protected status. These status holders are protected with a temporary order, and it may be removed immediately by the government. So these vulnerable groups, although they have a status right now, may lose their status if the government takes an action and do not extend the temporary protected status, for example, or do not extend DACA. So this is the third group that may be under danger in Trump administration's approaches. Who are the documented workers? We're talking about people who remain in the United States with a valid visa status, or they have a pending application. Although it's not a status, maybe they can be considered living in the United States while an application is pending. I'll give you an example. If you're an H-1B visa holder and you did not get past your I-94 expiration, you are in legal status. If you came to the United States with a tourist visa, you overstayed, but then you got married to a U.S. citizen and filed an adjustment of status application, you are not in status, but you can remain in the United States as long as your application is pending. So these beneficiaries or these applicants are not undocumented, and they have either a status or a pending application. The same goes for a person who entered the country through the border with the inspection of a CBP officer, who entered the U.S., filed for asylum, and awaiting his trial with the court. These people are not considered undocumented immigrants. So what are your rights if you are approached by an ICE agent? The first and most important thing to remember is you have the right to remain silent. This is a constitutional right. You're not obligated to answer any questions. Number two, do not sign anything that may cause self-deporting yourself. Number three, you need to call your attorney. If you don't have one, you can get one. Number four, whatever you do, do not lie. You can remain silent, but you cannot lie. There are some other things to keep in mind. For example, if you have children and if you are afraid of being stopped, you need to get the school know that there's an emergency number that they can call, and if you cannot pick up your kids from school, somebody else can. So you need to give that contact information to the school. Now I want to break down what you can do if ICE shows up in your home, in your workplace, or in public. If ICE comes to your home, you do not have to open the door. ICE cannot enter unless they have a signed search warrant by a judge. An ICE deportation warrant is not the same as the judge search warrant and does not allow them to enter your home. Ask them to slide the search warrant under the door. You have the right to remain silent. You do not have to answer any questions about your immigration status or where you were born. You may say out loud, "I'm using my right to remain silent." You do not have to show any documents that state your nationality. You have the right to speak to a lawyer. If you're detained, you need to retain a lawyer immediately. If you have an immigration law, you can provide a signed Form G-28 immediately. This form shows that you have an attorney in that matter. And do not sign any documents without consulting with an immigration lawyer. Of course, if you are in legal status, you can also show your legal status papers. For example, if you are an F1 student, you can show your I-20s. If you are an H-1B, you can show your approval notice, and if you have your payroll records, that also to show that you're maintaining your status. If you have a pending case, you can show the receipt notice, or if you're in court seeking asylum, you can show that you're seeking asylum at the court. So what happens if ICE comes to your workplace? So if you're in a private area of your workplace, ICE can only enter with a search warrant or your employer's consent. Do not panic or run. It is important that you remain calm. If you panic, if you run, that's not good. You can calmly walk toward the exit. If stopped, you can ask, "Am I free to leave?" If the officer says no, then remain where you are. You have the right to remain silent. If you're asked questions about your status, you do not have to answer. If you're asked to stand somewhere based on your immigration status, you do not have to do that. If you are asked where you were born or how you entered the United States, you may remain silent. If you choose to remain silent, you can say it out loud. You may also show a Know Your Rights card so that they know that you know your rights and you wish to remain silent. Whatever you do, do not show false documentation and do not lie. That's what's going to put you in danger. You have the right to speak to a lawyer. If you have a lawyer, you can let the officers know that you have a lawyer. If you don't have a lawyer, you can ask an immigration officer for a list of pro bono lawyers. Pro bono lawyers are lawyers who do not charge for their services. You may refuse to sign any paperwork until you talk to a lawyer. And you can also ask to speak to someone from your consulate. Again, if you're documented in such a raid in your office, then you will be able to show your legal status papers and you will have no problem. For example, if you're a green card holder, keep a copy of the green card, keep a copy or a photo of that green card in your wallet or in your phone. If you are in legal status, you should be able to show your legal status papers such as an H-1 approval or an F-1 I-20 or an E-2 approval or a copy of your passport, visa, showing that you're here in legal status. If you have a pending case, you can show your receipt notice or court papers. What if you're stopped in public? Again, you do not have to answer any questions about your identity. You do not have to answer any questions about where you were born, how you entered the United States, or your legal status. You may ask to leave. If the officer tells you you cannot leave, then you can use your right to remain silent. You may also show a Know Your Rights card to an officer to let them know that you know your rights as an immigrant. You may refuse to show identity documents showing what country you are from. And you may ask to speak with a lawyer before signing anything. Whatever you do, again, do not show false documents and do not lie. When stopped in public, you may refuse a search. If you're stopped and being questioned but not arrested, you do not have to consent to a search, but an officer can pat you down if he or she suspects that you have a weapon. Again, you have the right to speak to a lawyer. If you have a lawyer, let the officer know. If you do not have a lawyer, you can retain one, and you're not supposed to sign any papers without consulting with an attorney. If you do not have the financial ability to retain a lawyer, you can always ask the officer to provide you a list of pro bono lawyers. Again, if you're in legal status in the United States, you can always show the paperwork that you are legal in the United States. These include a green card copy, a receipt notice, an approval notice of a non-immigrant visa, a receipt notice of a pending green card application, or court papers showing that you are already in proceedings with the immigration court. So in order to sum this up, maybe we can conclude with this general advice. First of all, you need to stay calm and do not run. You're not supposed to show fake documentation or lie. Do not sign anything without understanding it. And always ask for a lawyer if you do not have one. If you cannot afford an attorney, you may be able to work with a pro bono attorney who don't charge for their services. And if you're detained, ask for a lawyer immediately. Finally, if ICE doesn't have a judge-signed search warrant, you do not have to comply with the search request. So hopefully this video was beneficial in understanding what rights you have as a legal non-citizen or an undocumented non-citizen. If you have any questions or you think I forgot something, you may reach out to me in the comments section. I will try to respond to them as much as possible. My name is Remzi Kulen. I'm an immigration attorney representing individuals and companies in their immigration matters for the last 20 years. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. I hope to see you in my next video.